Hello and welcome to Restoring Our American Republic. I'm Chuck Benoit with The Nature of Things, where we are realigning God, government, and natural law so that we might restore our American Republic. Please follow us on this Facebook page or check us out on YouTube at Restoring Our American Republic -ROAR. And if you'd like to take part in the narrative, simply post your comments and we'll be happy to address them when relevant to our discussion. And you can help us be a voice here locally by liking and sharing this program. And please note that we will be expanding our live streams to other venues very soon. So the Supreme Court handed down its decision in the birthright citizenship case, one of the more significant rulings of this session. It was a 6-3 decision, and it did not weigh in on the legalities of birthright citizenship. Birthright citizenship is the idea that children born in the U.S. are citizens regardless of whether their parents are. No other nation in the world believes that if you're born in their country to parents that are not their citizens, you are. Why? Well, because that would violate natural law and common sense for that matter. The decision was a victory, although more a procedural one for the Trump administration. The ruling stated that federal judges don't have the authority to issue nationwide injunctions that go beyond the individual plaintiffs on the cases that they're dealing with. It's a win for President Trump, whose executive orders have been held up in court as judges issue injunctions, temporarily stopping them from taking effect while those cases are being challenged and challenging the policies are making their way through the system. So Justice Barrett wrote the majority opinion, which sided with the Trump administration, and in her ruling, the conservative justice said of the liberal colleague's position that the liberal Brown Jackson there, whatever her name is, was difficult to pin down. And she concluded that we observe only this, that Justice Jackson decries an imperial executive while embracing an imperial judiciary. So what we have there is basically what the Democrats are always doing. They can be imperialistic, but no one else can. So you can chew on that for a little while. And with that, I would like to introduce today's special guest, Alan Ross from Brevard County, who's the chair of We the People. Welcome, Alan. How are you doing this morning?
Well, thank you, Chuck. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Super, super. So, how did you get involved in the political arena over there in Brevard County?
Well, I would say it was drawn in, kicking and screaming. I got involved right after the 2020 election because I thought the election was stolen, and all my instincts told me that I had to do something to get in the fight. So I did. I joined Defend Florida, and in Brevard County, we had a pretty robust canvassing operation, probably the largest and most successful county in Florida. And I went out every weekend for about 9 months, canvassing, knocking on doors, trying to determine if there were real problems with the vote. And to make a long story short, over that period of time, I gathered evidence and signed 30 affidavits of voting fraud in Brevard County. Continued to work with Defend Florida, but found that I had to do more, that I just didn't like the way things were going. As the more I tipped my toe in, the more I saw that there were problems. So I ended up joining the Brevard Republican Executive Committee. I would say I've been a pretty outspoken and vocal person. And my view is we have a great patriotic REC, but I think we could be a lot better. And to that end, I offered up a lot of suggested ideas, pretty much following the precinct strategy, to try to recruit patriots to take control over the Republican Party. And
that strategy is actually a very excellent strategy. The whole concept of beginning to organize each different precinct. I don't know why my words aren't coming out this morning. I wanted to go ahead, though, before we got too far into this, and welcome Mike Levine in from Glass House Media. Mike, how you doing this morning?
I'm great. It's good to be here with you and Alan, Chuck.
Super, yeah. So as Alan got started, he's very concerned about the election in 2020 and did some digging and found some dirt, huh, Alan?
Yeah, a lot of dirt. It was, I just couldn't believe it. I mean, in one of the most Republican counties, and was told that, we were the greatest county in terms of election integrity, that all the crap that we saw, and a lot of us saw going on, and it just inspired me to get involved and do more. The more I've dug in, the more frustrated I've gotten, because I think there's certain big picture issues that really have to be addressed by the citizenry of Florida, and that's how I really got involved. So during the 2024 primary, in our county, we were one of 7 counties that had mailers dropped the last couple of weeks by a political committee called Make America Great Again, PC. And it was basically a voter guide. And it was a very misleading voter guide. It had Donald Trump's picture on it. It had Ron DeSantis's picture on it. And it had it was basically like any voting, suggested voting card that you would get. And what was interesting beyond that was that it had the marks of the Republican Party of Florida on the back, and the marks of the Brevard Republican Executive Committee on the back of the mailer. And when people got that in their mailbox, just like I did, they said, "Oh my God, this is great." I knew better, because I know from being on the REC, Republican Executive Committee, that we don't endorse like that. I mean, the RPO really doesn't allow it. So all sorts of red flags came up. I pushed our chair at our REC to do the right thing, and he did. And those mailers hurt a lot of people in our county and the other 6 counties. And I think one of the guests here today is one of those persons who is potentially hurt as well. So our chair basically asked 5 of us, and I led that, to dig into what was going on with Make America Great Again, PC. And by digging in, it was basically following the money, and trying to determine who was involved with this. Were the people that they were supporting involved in it? Where the money came from. I mean, I'll give you a good example. What we found is the money that was used to basically fund Make America Great Again PAC. Very little of it, if any, I would say less than 1%, came from Brevard County. So, yes,
so Alan, talk about the connections to the Florida House PC, the Florida Senate PC, and the Republican Party of Florida PC.
Okay, so trying to bridge that work. So what happened was, the more we saw, the more we got sick. So we thought we had gotten enough information that if people who were hurt had basically a reasonable road track to a legal suit, but we felt that was going to take years. And the further we dug and we looked at more PCs, was that there's a much bigger problem. And the bigger problem, which most people in Florida still don't understand, that's why listening to a podcast like this is so important, is that this issue is so large. The influence that political committees have and in Florida is so significant that, in my opinion, and other top-notch election integrity people in Florida believe this as well, that if we don't fix this issue, we could get all of President Trump's election integrity agenda passed. By that, I mean same-day voting, perfect IDs, no mail-in ballots, no machines, watermark paper ballots, hand-counted. We could be doing all of that in Florida, and yet our elections would not be secure. because all this money is influencing our elections, and it's not right and it's not fair, and it's all money from the donor class. So as we continue to dig, we found a couple of issues. The first one, which we think is the root cause of all the problems, was back in 2013 and 2014. The legislature at that time basically eliminated what I'm going to call the political committee cap. And at that time, anybody or any entity, whether it was a person, a corporation, you name it, had a limit on what they could basically contribute to political committees. And what they did at that time is when they took that cap away, which they didn't do for people or in campaigns, special money came pouring in. So if you ever wonder why things like we're losing our property rights, why there's massive development, that existing zoning is being changed for high unit development, if you ever wonder why we're not getting our utility bills lowered, why nothing's happening to improve the insurance situation in Florida, why you ever wonder why in Florida with Republican controlled supermajorities we don't have a We the People's Freedom Caucus? Ask yourself that why, and it all leads back to this, in my opinion. And you ever wonder why the Republican Party of Florida as an organization is blowing up grassroots MAGA Republican executive committees like they did with the REC, the Manatee REC, or they're in suits with the Florida Republican Assembly, things like that.
Let me jump in a little bit if you don't mind, Alan. Can I jump in, Chuck?
You're in.
Thank you. You know, I was the chairman of the Lake County Republican Executive Committee between 2012 and 2016. And here's what I want to tell you. Who was the governor in 2013 and 2014, Alan?
Was it Rick Scott?
Yeah, it was Rick Scott. Well, guess what? In 2014, let's just say 2013, 2014, I think those chairmanships run 2-year terms. And Lenny Curry was the chairman of the Republican Party of Florida when I became chairman of the Lake Executive Committee. And Lenny Curry decided to run for mayor in Jacksonville. So he resigned, and Rick Scott was running for re-election, actually, yeah, second term. So a girl by the name of Leslie Doer was in the Republican Party of Florida, they have a caucus called Chair. She was the chair of chairs is the vernacular that they use to describe the person who interfaces with the county chairman from around the state, Leslie Doer. So Leslie made a case that she should be the interim chairman while Lenny Curry ran off to run for mayor of Jacksonville. So she became the chair. But it was obvious to everyone in the Republican Party of Florida that Leslie really didn't have all the tools to effectively lead the Republican Party of Florida. But Rick Scott won. He won. And Leslie, by the way, promised that if we let her be the interim chair, she would not run for chair in 2014. So Rick Scott won in November and immediately endorsed Leslie to be chair to the 2014-2016 election cycles. So that even though Rick Scott, the governor, and keep in mind that the political class will tell you that the senior elected official in the state is the head of the party. That's how the elected officials view it. The party isn't grassroots people. The party is the elected officials. This goes all the way back forever. This is not new at all. This is the reason I'm bringing it to you. So 3 other candidates got in the race. And then what I did as chairman, I profiled all 4 candidates in the race, and I just not choosing sides, just facts, just pros and cons, right? And I sent that analysis out to everyone in the Republican Party of Florida. So effectively, that blew Leslie Dorr out of the water. She was no longer I mean, she just was crushed by the simple factual comparison that I delivered to every Republican executive committee, every Republican Party in Florida member, 267 members, including Marco Rubio, Rick Scott, the whole team. So the point is that during that time, when there were 4 candidates running for the Republican Party of Florida, Carlos Lopez Quinteros, who was the lieutenant governor at the time, came over and started talking to Eric Martin, who was one of the 4 candidates in the race for the Republican Party of Florida, and told Eric Martin to his face that he did not need the grassroots to win an election. We win elections on television, was the point. So while I know and so I would suggest that, yes, I know that Ron DeSantis has carried the mantle forward. So long story short, the political class in the state of Florida has been dominating the electorate with heavily weighted political committees for a very, very long time, Alan. And I'll turn the floor back over to you.
Well, that's right, Mike. So what we found, we did a lot of digging, because most of us on our committee, we just couldn't believe what we were seeing. So, for example, in Make America Great Again PAC, what we found was that the only real funding that that PAC had was from 5 other political committees, and we thought that was pretty astounding, because how does that happen? So we looked at all the 5 PACs that were funding them. And when we started looking at that level, we found that there was another 60 or so PACs funding those PACs. And the upshot of that is, when that sort of activity happens, money being transferred like that, it becomes dark money. So if you're a normal citizen, you have no chance of understanding where the money's coming from. I mean, the 5 of us, we spent months looking at this stuff. So it's a great way to do it. And then we had special elections in our county. So we started seeing mailers. We had 4 people running for a special election state Senate seat. We had 4 candidates. And every day, about 2 weeks before the election, one of the candidates kept sending out a mailer every day. And that woman's name is Debbie Mayfield. So we said, let's look at this PAC. Let's look at and it was a PAC. It was this Republican Senatorial Campaign Committee PAC that was supporting her with all these mailers day after day after day. And when we got into that one, we just lost our minds. We laid it all out, and like in my example, that PAC, in the time period we looked at them, I think somewhere between 120 and 130 donations from other PACs. And we believe, we didn't go through the whole next tier, but we believe that there was probably another 400 PACs feeding those 120 that put the money in. And then all the other money in this PAC were from the marijuana lobby, the utilities, the insurance companies, developers, attorneys. So you name it. So when we stratified all the contributions, it was literally no money coming from we the people. So
exactly.
So what
if you don't mind, I'm just going to comment right now that the Republican executive committees at the local level are prohibited from endorsing or to one candidate, one Republican over another in a primary, but the Republican senatorial PAC has no problem with it at all.
Correct.
Alan.
Correct. So they can yield all the power. And that, Mike, that's a great point, because that gets back to the issue of what's going on with a lot of these other RECs. I mean, any MAGA RECs, I mean, the RPOF is really putting their thumb on them, because
big time.
They want to maintain the power. And if you look at how they're doing it, it's really kind of, I admire them for their creativity, and they're pretty smart, but they're doing a great job at it. I mean, they're like, in our county, we have a bunch of Republican clubs. So the new rules that are coming out, they're putting on more pressure on Republican clubs, because they don't even want a Republican club to be endorsing candidates. You look at the legal battles that they had with the Florida Republican Assembly. Now, why are they fighting the Florida Republican Assembly? Why are they in court? It's all about power because the RPOF does not want the religious right of the Republican Party doing endorsements. You just go through it and you can absolutely see that. But the most interesting part of looking at the PCs was looking at who controls them and who the power brokers are. So what we did was we looked at probably a good 20 to 25 packs in detail, and we kept seeing the same names. So,
What were the names?
well, some names. So let's kind of start at the top. So let's start with Evan Power. So most people in Florida, I know most people in my precinct because
Who is Evan Power?
he's the head of the Republican Party of Florida. And most people don't know that he's a lobbyist, right? And he works for a guy named David Rampa, who, interestingly enough, is involved with the what I call the County Supervisor of Elections Lunch Club. And they kind of
No. No. That is very significant, Alan. Please elaborate on that, on the association between the supervisors of elections in Florida.
So Ramba kind of runs that thing. I mean, the best way.
No, he does run it. He is the consultant for them. He is the political lobbyist for the Association of Supervisors of Elections. That is a problem.
It is the problem because if you think about it, Mike, right? When we go to the ballot box in Florida in each of our counties, right, we're electing our own constitutional officers, right? One of which is each county supervisor of election. And what they're being asked to do is to kind of like follow the lead of what Ramba and the Republican Party, because we control things now, what they want to do. And it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to see it. You go down the next level. So like when we looked at Make America Great Again PAC, we started seeing the same names pop up. We saw those two names, and two of the biggest PACs. One that I mentioned before, the senatorial PAC. The head of that PAC is a guy named Ben Albritton, and the head of the House one is Danny
Albritton. Ben Albritton, who is the president of the Florida Senate.
And on the House campaign committee, it's Danny Perez, right? So you look at
who is the Speaker of the House in Florida.
Who is the Speaker of the House in Florida. So they have all this money that they can do whatever they want to do, and yet what's coming out of Tallahassee? Nothing. Absolutely.
And they control the rules of the Republican Party of Florida, which are rules for thee, but not for me. So they position those rules and implement them down into the grassroots, making the rules for how grassroots activists can interact in election cycles while they trample all over you with their bulldozer of money. And I'd like to speak a little more to that. I know we're going to run out of time here, Alan. So I'm just so impressed with what you're doing, because I think, if you don't mind, I'm just going to not bring it to an end, but just to put a cap on the whole thing and saying that I'm just going to ask you, so you believe that campaign finance reform is essential to restoring liberty to the state of Florida. Can you agree?
Absolutely, and we think it's one of the key provisions of having good election integrity. Because what's happening now, what happened in Brevard County with the mailers, it was sinful because 2 weeks before the primaries, you could be just like Joe Biden in his bunker, right? You could be sitting there doing nothing, and then all of a sudden you have this massive influx of mailers, campaign collateral, everything coming from out of county, no less, to blow up good grassroots candidates. It's horrendous.
Well, Alan, let me tell you something. I'm not a lawyer, but particularly since you Of course, I've known this for a long time, right? I was the chairman of the party, and I brought the fight to the Republican Party of Florida in 2012, 14, 16. So I am not. I'm probably I could very well be the poster child for the resistance in the mind of the Republican Party of Florida, because I do know those people, and they know me, and they certainly came out against me when I was running for the Florida House in 24. But what I'm saying to you is this: what these guys are doing is an infringement on the rights of all the citizens of Florida. And I believe that if we really started ripping this apart, we could make a case that the campaign finance laws in the state of Florida are an infringement on the rights of the citizens. I know that's a heavy lift, but I believe that that's true, and I guess we're incumbent to be able to prove it. But this must be done, or we will lose our republic, not just Florida, but the entire country. And as you know, many times, and you can give our Governor Ron DeSantis credit for much of it, but as the state of Florida goes, so goes the nation. So if we can win this fight in Florida, hopefully it'll impact other states, and we'll be able to take another step forward in advancing the cause of liberty in the United States. I'm going to toss this over to Chuck, if you don't mind, Alan. Chuck?
Yep.
Yeah, I just thought I'd jump in because we're kind of coming down to the end of our time. But the first question I'd like to ask is, can we expect to hear from you again, Alan? Can we invite you back on our show?
Yeah, yes, certainly, Chuck.
Super.
And anyone who's listening, I'm willing to come to speak about this issue. I would encourage people, I think you've had it up, to go to the website we developed here in Brevard County called ultramagapatriots.com. There's a political committees section there where you go in there, you can see our full report, you can learn about the webs, the monies, what we think has to be done about it. And it's a great place to start. And if you have questions, you can contact me. My email address is Alan, ALANW 155 at AOL.com. And I'd be happy to walk the report through anybody who wants to do it. It's important, and we're going to continue to bring the fight. We're organizing counties across the state to see if we can get a statewide movement. And we're looking at various alternatives, from legislation to a citizen's ballot, which, oh, by the way, is not a ballot initiative, which, oh, by the way, now it's not as easy as it used to be, because what did they do in Tallahassee this election cycle? They made it much more difficult for citizens.
Much more expensive.
Expensive, right. And I'll give you an example of that. In our county, what they did was, on ballot initiatives and checking signatures, they used to charge 90 cents. Now they're going to go to $3.40. So just to kind of do the math in terms of the number of signatures you'd need to do something like this, they're completely.
Yeah, and let me just say something. We talked about the Association of Supervisors of Elections, right? And then we have constitutional officers in all of our counties. And in each one of those counties, that is basically a club. Can you agree, Alan? The constitutional officers support each other. They work together. Yeah, they work together, right? So certainly your best friend is a supervisor of elections, because you know what? Anytime there's a judgment call, and let's give them the benefit of the doubt, which I'm just being generous, the supervisor of elections gets to choose which way that question goes, pretty much single-handedly. So, we have a lot of work to do, but Chuck and I set out to do this live stream because we understand that alternative media is emerging, and the reason that these tyrants are becoming so bold is because we are encroaching on them. And then when Chuck and I saw what you were doing, we felt that it was really important to get you involved so that we can work together and just right the ship of campaign finance and election integrity. And I'm going to bounce this back over to Chuck.
Yeah, so in conclusion, we're kind of coming right down to the last few seconds. So I'm going to ask you a question, but wouldn't mind if you got right to the point. Earlier we discussed precinct organization. Now, if you're out there talking to people, you may know the answer to this question. How engaged does the average Republican electorate really want to be?
You asking me, Chuck?
Yes, I am.
Well, unfortunately, I'm going to speak for my precinct alone.
Yeah, oh, that's it. Yeah.
Most of them are living their life, so most of them have no idea what's going on. And in our county, the nicest way I can say this is Republicans own every office in our county, every significant office in our county.
Yeah.
So, if you're a Republican, you just sit back, go play some golf, do some fishing, have a cocktail. They think life's great. But they're not asking the right question. What Republican? And what are they doing for me? So,
as our friend Chuck Benoit likes to say, what is a Republican? And Chuck challenges the Republican Party of Florida to define Republicanism. And the Republican Party of Florida's representatives have told Chuck that Republican is whatever we say it is, Alan.
well,
Comment on that.
I will drink to that. And if anybody wants to read the full report on what we found, I think anybody who takes the time to read that report first, they'll get sick. And secondly, and most importantly, they'll come around to our way of thinking. I think it's that clear cut.
Hopefully,
at the end of the day, Alan, the elected officials have to be persuaded to do the right thing. That's the only way we're going to win. You're never going to get a 75% engagement level with the aggregate of all the voters. It's going to have to be done through the decision makers and through the legal process, which is, as you pointed out, constitutional amendments, legislation, political pressure, et cetera. But I'm saying to you that for all of the activists that see this video, you got to put pressure on the decision makers, because talking to the rank and file doesn't get you anywhere. Alan and Chuck,
Okay.
Chuck, if you'd like to speak to it, whatever.
So, yeah, we're going to kind of shut it down here. Alan, thank you so much for joining us today. And
Thank you for having me.
I'm just very confident we're going to have you back because I think we barely scratched the surface of a lot of these things. I will, again, toss it back to you, Mike. Do you have any closing remarks?
I just want to tell Alan that the Citizen Liberty Alliance in Claremont has a date open in September and October. So you tell us, Alan, when's it better? Would you prefer coming in September or October? And then we'll send you out an invite to confirm you'll be speaking to the, I always get the name of this thing confused. I think it's called Liberty Citizens Alliance. Yes, LCA, Liberty Citizens Alliance. So we'll send the invite out. Chuck, why don't you wrap it up for us?
Sure. So, again, thank you so much for tuning in to our twice weekly live stream. See you next time. And meanwhile, God bless you. God bless President Donald J. Trump. And God bless America.